moderator.
Okay.
Apple re-revolutionizes everything at WWDC. Tesla pulls the plug on swappable batteries. Samsung says yes to TVs you see through. Phone carriers want to turn you into aliens, and the Oculus finally unveils the Rift. Just imagine that I'm in front of a green screen and not actually sitting in an apartment, miles away from home and technology that keeps me awake at night. Actually, never mind, I might actually be able to get some sleep tonight. This will be a first. Welcome to the TechnoCola Podcast, episode 4, titled An Apple Here, An Apple There. So, in case you guys can't notice, or are just listening to the podcast instead of watching, I'm not actually in front of my normal computer, and I don't actually have anybody else with me. I'm away from home on a trip. Everybody else is to JD, I think, has gone to a wedding, and Brandon's available but not here, so we decided that we would just treat this as a bye-week and not actually shoot a podcast, but as I was here, I thought, maybe I actually should just go ahead and just do a quick, news story type podcast so I can get something out. It's super low tech. I'm on my MacBook Air, brought my webcam, and since I don't have a boom arm, I'm just holding the MacBook. So, if the quality is suffering today, you know why. I'm just going to go ahead and treat this as a normal, a news type podcast. I don't really want to share too many opinions because I feel some of these topics, especially the wildfire topics, being the Apple, WWDC, and the Oculus presentation. Since they are pretty big topics, I like to bring them up next week. Maybe not talk about them as in depth as we would, but I think it's important to cover those topics. So let's just go ahead and quickly get into this. I'll give you some big stories, or little ones. Let's start with the little ones. Makes more sense. We'll keep you guys waiting for the good stuff. So, so Tesla says no to replaceable batteries in the cars. The thing about this that I feel like is everything is moving to this point where nobody really seems to want to carry around batteries anymore, whether it be in phones or just in normal everyday devices. I remember the days when you have to carry around a couple extra AA batteries or a couple of AAA batteries, depending on what you were using. And nobody really wants to do that. It was a pain, and then you have to go home and charge them, and it just wasn't convenient. So I think that the fact that Tesla's saying no to replaceable batteries in their cars because Elon Musk said that the consumers don't really have a deep want to have replaceable batteries. They'd rather just have supercharging batteries, meaning that they charge a lot more quickly. A couple of phones out now, including the Galaxy S6, the Nexus 6. I'm missing a lot of big ones. I know a lot of the Oppo phones also. Oh gosh, I just realized that my charger has split. Oh no, it's not going to focusing on this. Anyway, my laptop charger has finally bit the bullet. I think it still works, but anyway, in true technical fashion, we never stay on topic. So there's a lot of phones, Android phones specifically. No iPhone has supported it yet, and I believe that no BlackBerry phones have supported it yet either. But there are quite a few Android phones that support turbocharging, I think they call it. I think there are a couple of different standards. I know Samsung has their own, and then there's the Qualcomm turbocharging, which is convenient because Qualcomm is the all-in-one chip maker. Geez, what's the name? There's a name for it, but basically they make the chips that have the CPU, the GPU, and everything else on it on one chip. And they support their own turbocharging, which is nice. So everything tends to come bundled in one. G4 also supports it. I know that. But in any case, I think it speaks to the time that we're in and how people don't really care that much about having to replace batteries. They'd rather just be able to charge it really quickly and then within a half an hour have 75% of the battery that their phone can carry. I don't know. It's the times that we're in right now. I think personally, I do enjoy the idea of having a swappable battery, but in reality, I don't think I've swapped a battery for a phone more than once or twice when I use the same phone for a year. So I mean, it's not something that I find particularly useful. I do find micro SD support a lot more useful, but both of those things, being batteries and external storage on phones, they tend to be going the way of the dodo or something. So that's basically what's happening with Tesla. I think Elon Musk, gave a presentation on that. So thought it was something important to bring up. Next up, Samsung shows off their transparent and mirror TVs. Now, I think a couple weeks ago, we talked about LG showing off their super thin displays that were like a millimeter or something ridiculous. And I kind of called them out and saying, well, yeah, the display might be that thin, but all the components that you actually need to run the TV are definitely not that thin. And that 1 millimeter length in terms of width, that 1 millimeter width is probably not correct. I was just saying that, so don't quote me on that. So I'm going to say something similar for this. The fact that you have a TV that's transparent and have a TV that, like a mirror TV, I think that there are very specific uses for these things. I don't think that you really care. I don't think the normal person should care. I think having a transparent TV can be useful in the future in terms of turning that into a window. And maybe, getting like weather notifications on it or getting weather information. I think that would be really useful. You'd also have to take into the fact that depending on how bright it is, I'm assuming that it's going to affect how easily it's going to be to see out of it. I think that these are gimmicks. The mirror TV, I could see that being used in like a buy and close sort of thing. It could be really cool if they could set up some sort of API where people, clothing stores could set up a system where you could go on a mirror TV, look this up, look up whatever you wanted to wear, and then you could stand in front of it and it would kind of mirror you and then the clothing that you want to purchase on top of you. And then you could be like, all right, well, this is going to look good on me and this is not. I think that would be really cool. It would give you less reason to leave the house, but I feel like that's what most things are coming to now anyway. I think that these are gimmicks. They're not completely useful in a normal day-to-day thing. I mean, think about it. Would you want to set up a mirror TV in your TV room, like the main room or whatever? I think it doesn't really make much sense. A transparent TV, maybe, if you have a white wall behind it, or I don't think it's completely transparent. I believe it is translucent, but you can clearly see everything behind it. I mean, you guys know that the show notes are in the description, so you can go ahead and click in on these links and kind of take a look for yourself. There are pictures, so I think it's something that you do have to just kind of experience on your own. As I pull up this, I'm like, I'm looking at the transparent TV, and it's not completely transparent, but you can see through it. And the mirror TV is there too. It's really cool. I don't see the complete draw to it, and I don't know if the mirror TV is by definition also see-through. No, it doesn't look like it. In the picture, in the description, it looks like the model is kind of, she's pointing to a ring on this mirror TV, and there's a table on the TV. And for a second, I thought it continued on behind it, but I guess not. So it's a purely mirror TV or transparent TV. type of situation. So I think they're really cool. I mean, this is what people thought would be in the future. I mean, could you imagine like stepping up to your window in the morning and then just kind of like looking through your weather or whatever? I think that'd be really cool. But it doesn't really hold a living room purpose. It's not something that you're going to buy and set up in your living room. And I think that these are pretty big too. They're the 55-inch. Sorry about. Oh gosh, I think my mic just tried to unplug itself. It wants me to stop. Yeah, they're 55-inch TVs, both of them. So, I mean, is there a price tag listed? Does not look like it. I don't see a price tag. I think they're just showing off the technology more than anything. So, it's there, and it's coming. So, take it as you will. I don't think that it's really anything too important at the end of the day. Next small topic before we get into the big guys. Phone carriers want to block consumer warnings of cell phone radiation. So I don't know if you guys knew anybody that did this, but I know that I knew a few people when I was younger that when they got a cell phone, they would put these kind of like small little stickers, I'd say about a quarter size sticker on the back of their phones, and that was supposedly supposed to eliminate the radiation coming off the phone. I mean, at those times, those were like the little brick phones, that the feature phones, I think they call them now, that couldn't really do anything but make phone calls and send small texts. Or, I mean, they could send long texts, but nobody wants to sit there and text on a T9 keyboard. So I think at that time, I didn't really buy into the idea that, oh yeah, that's going to stop radiation. It didn't really make much sense to me. And now, I guess phone carriers want to block the fact that they need to talk about those regulations. This is a really weird topic. I don't really feel too comfortable talking about it, just because there's a lot of bureaucracy. Yep, my microphone definitely keeps unplugging itself. Sorry. There's a lot of bureaucracy that goes on, especially with the FCC, because it's the FCC standards that are defining what phone carriers have and have not to do, what they have to do and what they don't have to do. So I don't feel too comfortable talking about this. What I'm basically going to say is that phone carriers obviously do not, wireless carriers, I should say, they're trying to pay their shareholders. They're under pressure from their shareholders, and the less negative press at all that they have, the more that they can sell. Yes, this is negative press, the fact that this article came out, but at the same time, I feel like it is better for them in the long term to not have to post warnings about cell phone radiation, because everyone talks about it. At one point, somebody, I'm sure, has brought up to you, like, oh, you're not supposed to fall asleep with your phone next to your head. You're not supposed to, I don't know, like wear them in your jeans or something. It's something that I feel like everybody has been brought up to, something that has been brought up to everyone at some point in time. I'm not comfortable talking about this. So it says that this is a quote from the FCC saying, pursuant to the mandate, the SEC, consulting with expert federal health and safety agencies and drawing from international standard-setting bodies, has carefully reviewed the scientific studies that have examined cell phones for possible adverse health effects, including health effects from the radio waves. He goes on to say that the FCC has determined, consistent with the overwhelming consensus of scientific authority, that there is no scientific evidence that proves that wireless phone usage can lead to cancer or a variety of other problems, including headaches, dizziness, or memory loss. So because of that, the phone carriers, I'm sure, are very, very happy. Wireless carriers, sorry. The interesting thing that I would like to bring up also quickly before we move on to the big topics is that the frequency in which wireless communications operate in terms of cell phones and making calls is actually right. I believe it's between microwaves and I want to say radio waves, but it could very well possibly be infrared. I know that it's very close to the microwaves frequency. So because of that, obviously you're not supposed to stick your head in the microwave. So because of that, at the same frequency, people have been worried that by using the phone so much, you're actually harming your brain, that you're sending those signals through your head, and that it is harming you. So, I mean, here the FCC says, yeah, so there's actually no scientific evidence that is true. I'm not completely sure with how the bureaucracy works, which is why I didn't want to talk about this too much. I don't know if they have a possible reason to quote this. I don't know if it's a government agency. So, I mean, other than governing, I don't think that they really have to answer to anybody but the people. So I feel like there's a very good possibility that this isn't a bad thing. And I guess the footage just turned on because it's humming. Oh, jeez. That's going to be fun. So it's different than let's say, like a wireless carrier coming out and saying this. But the fact that they're supporting this, different. Anyway, I'm gonna leave this topic for next week, the next two topics for next week. So I'm just gonna quickly run through the big topics for both the Oculus Rift event and the WWDC Apple event from this past week. So let's hit Oculus first, and then we'll get to Apple. This is probably gonna be really loud and difficult to edit. 17 minutes. Remember that number, often. That's the point where you have to edit this out. Edit out all the noise I'm making. So I have my Apple shirt with me in support of WWDC. I'm not a Apple fanboy, but at the same time, I don't think I'm an Android fanboy either. I think they each have their draws and their cons, their pros and their cons. It's a choice. I'm not going to get into that argument right now. Anyway, Oculus Rift. So the final version was finally announced. It looks a lot sleeker, I believe, in my personal opinion, than the two DK kits, the developer kits, both DK1 and DK2. There's also there's a little button on the side or on the bottom. I think it is. It would be on the bottom that you can use to move the lens to actually fit correctly over your eyes. I've never used an Oculus Rift. I've never used a Rift, so I don't know how important that is. I don't know if some people have had problems with setting that up, that the lens was too far, too close to their eyes. So you have that option now. You're able to move it. There's also internal microphones. So imagine like kind of small little circles. What does this look like? Imagine the letter O with like a little post underneath it. That's what these headphones look like, and they basically just clasp onto the Oculus, which is nice because it you can just pop them off and plug in external headphones. So it still supports external headphones, but they have put internal ones on there too, so you can kind of have an all-in-one experience and not have to have anything else kind of attached. There's also only one external sensor, which is fantastic. I feel like you just kind of plug it in your computer, and that's all you need. So I think they've done a really good job of making everything user-friendly, and you don't need a lot of extra stuff and know how to get this working. It also comes with an Xbox One controller, which is very, very interesting. That's a wonderful partnership. So Microsoft essentially is partnered with Oculus. So the Rift now has native Windows 10 support, which means that you can stream games. Fantastic. They talked about this in Windows 10 during the Windows 10 launch. The fact that they're bringing it to the Oculus I keep saying the Oculus. It's the Rift. Oculus is the company. The fact that they're bringing this to the Rift now, I think, is fantastic. There's also like a virtual cinema for Xbox One games. If I don't know if I'm quoting that correctly, but from what I saw in the demonstration, you can. I just saw a quick cut through of it. There is. You put on the Rift. You have your Xbox One controller in your hand, and you basically the virtual reality is that you're sitting in like a big room with a huge TV in front of you, and you're just sitting on the couch sitting on a couch looking up at this huge TV, and it's like it feels like you're in a virtual cinema. Basically, you're in like a movie theater. I thought it was pretty cool. It's going to be weird though. Like, why not just play the game? I guess that it is immersive, that you're in like another room, but now it's Inception. You're in a room playing the game. You're in a room playing a game, in a room playing a game. If that makes sense. So, cool, I guess. They also kind of announced a couple games. Eve, Valkyrie, Kronos, and Edge of Nowhere. Are three kind of big title games that they're saying are going to be coming out for the Rift at launch, Q1 2016. Considering we're only like halfway through 2015 now, I guess that could be kind of a bummer. But they're going to be announcing more games at E3. They also announced that they're now again. I watched a small cut through of this where it's like the highlights of the E3 or of the Oculus presentation. So they're giving $10 million in support of independent games for indie developers, the small guys. I don't know how it's supposed to be divvied up. I think this is a very interesting topic, and I don't want to get too into it, and I want to wait till next week. So $10 million for independent indie games. Cool. Why not? Oculus Home is basically your hub of it's a piece of software that is basically your hub for everything Rift related games. I think that's great. I never owned a Rift, so I don't know how difficult it was to launch the games, how to play them, how to load up the next one. I think it's going to be really interesting to see as time goes on, as we get closer and closer to 2016 Q1, how easy it's going to be to play in virtual reality. I think that's something that a lot of people want to do, and it would be really cool to do, but it's a weird market where now you have a bunch of players in the market, and there's no specific standard. Like you have the HTC Vive, you have the Samsung VR, you have Oculus Rift. Is I missing one? I'm not sure if I am. I think there's also like a lot of like smaller name companies, like just small brand companies that try to make virtual reality headsets to varying success. But you have a lot of choices, basically, at the end of the day. And then in true Steve Jobs fashion, he said, and we do have one more thing to announce. They announced the Oculus Touch, which is this like tiny little module. So if you imagine in your hand, you kind of hold your hand like this, but there's two separate modules. So one hand you have a controller, and another hand you have a controller. It's like a little ring that goes around your hand with a trigger and then a D-pad, I think, and a couple buttons. It's wireless and it's really cool. I think there's a strap on it also, just like in true Wii fashion. So you don't throw this thing at a wall while you're playing or something. But it's very small. It's motion tracking, so it picks up natural motion. So the guy said, yeah, if you want to be able to pick up a gun and quickly shoot it, it should be a natural movement. So I'm assuming you would actually use two hands, pick up the gun, and aim it and fire it. And the natural hand movements that it would require, the controller picks up those and is basically able to convey that to the game. So I think that this could be the beginning of some really cool stuff. I don't know how accurate it's going to be. They said it was a prototype. I don't know if it's going to look exactly like that at launch. It's all up in the air, I feel like. So it's going to be kind of interesting to see how it turns out. But it's called the Oculus Touch. It has the same D-pad on each controller, and then it has a couple buttons. It's wireless. That's about it. There's one for each hand. It's also supposed to be very comfortable. It's wireless with a strap. Oh, and it supports haptic feedback. That's a big one. Having haptic feedback can be a battery drain. I don't know, since it's wireless, if they're going to require like a they're going to require a AA battery for each one, which would not be nice. Like the Xbox controllers still do that. That makes no sense to me. Like, sell me like a recharge kit or something. Like, sell me a battery that I can swap rather than just putting like not a AA battery. I hate that. Just sell me like a normal battery and put like a little charger in it or in the box or something. I'd gladly pay an extra $20, $30 for that. But give me two. I don't want one. I want two. I'm just tired of carrying these AA batteries around, so I don't know if the Oculus Touch is going to have an extra battery in it or what the deal is, but it should be interesting. It's still a prototype coming out in 2016. Last topic, geez, getting close to a half an hour here. I wanted to keep this below like 20, 25 minutes, but I guess I have a lot to talk about. Okay, so the next topic is the wildcard topic 2, WWDC. So first of all, there was kind of a weird opening on this one. There was like two singers. I don't even know I don't want to talk about it. If you want to see the weird opening, please go watch the stream. Or I think there's a recorded session, that Apple posted on their website. So you can just go download that. I think it's in audio and, video. So it should be pretty easy for you guys to track down. So Tim Cook kind of hustled through the intro on this one. It was kind of weird because usually he's one to talk. Microphone that unplugged. He's usually one to talk about how great Apple's doing and how much money they've made and their margins, or not margins, how much better they're doing in terms of how their competitors are doing. I'm just going to say it. So in terms of how Android is doing, in terms of how BlackBerry is doing. So yeah, he didn't do it this time, which I guess kind of alluded to the fact that there was a lot to announce. So I'm going to go through this pretty quick. Excuse me. First of all, before we get started here, Craig's hair was just as amazing as it always is. It's poofy. It's great. It's fantastic. You should go watch the video podcast that they posted. The new version of OS 10, not OS X, OS 10, is called El Capitan. OS 10 OSS. Oh my god, I just said it. OS 10.11. El Capitan, he makes jokes about how revolutionary everything in the new OS 10 is. I mean, they've gotten to a point where they're okay with making jokes about themselves. Like, they realize that what they say, oh, this is revolutionary, this is amazing. It's not really. I mean, other platforms have had it for a long time, but the fact that you're implementing it now suddenly makes it revolutionary. No, nobody thinks that. Everybody just loved the fact that, Apple's doing it now, so now it's suddenly relevant. But he made a couple of jokes about that, which I appreciated. I think that's I definitely did appreciate it. It doesn't put them on as high of a pedestal, and they realize that what they're doing is not necessarily new, but in some ways, I will admit that they do things that are a lot better than how they've been implemented before. Couple features that they announced. I know a lot of times that I kind of lose track of where my mouse is on the screen, which is, I guess in retrospect, kind of weird, but I always do that shake, where you kind of just like shake your mouse and you kind of look for where it is. It turns out in OS 10.11, El Capitan, it gets bigger. So it's like imagine like a logarithmic scale. You shake it, and suddenly it just becomes huge, and then it in the same logarithmic fashion, it just gets a lot smaller back to its normal size. So I think that's cool. It's also the definition of a gimmick. So there's that. There's natural language in Spotlight search now, so you can kind of say like emails from Jonathan or whatever. It's kind of cool. I actually love natural language search. I don't like it in clocks. I think that it takes a lot more time to read the words on the display than to just see the digits on a clock. I think that it makes a lot of sense for calendar input. Just being able to speak to it or even type it out. I think that Fantastical supports that on iOS. I know that there's one that supports it on Android, but I can't remember. Excuse me, I was like in the middle of a yawn and talking. What else do we have here? Natural language all across with iOS and OS 10. Window management similar to Windows. So like split view, split window. Is it OS 10 now? I think they implement it pretty well. Kind of like lock two apps that you always use together next to each other, which is really cool. Yeah. Metal is now also on OS 10. If you guys remember, Metal was on iOS 9, which is basically like an API. It was a software kit where you could basically get ridiculous mobile or ridiculous, like, I shouldn't say ridiculous graphics for mobile on mobile. It wasn't anything like what you would see on a desktop platform now for mobile, but it was better. It was pretty good. I was impressed. They're bringing that to OS 10. You're never going to be able to game on a Mac. The hardware just doesn't have that support. So I feel like this was kind of a moot point. But they brought it to OS 10. So I mean, the game developers that do want to take advantage of it now can. I don't think I've ever. I take that back. I have played one game on my Mac before. It was Hexagon or something. Something like that, or Octagon, Octid, something, whatever. I don't think it's really that big of a point, but they announced it, so cool. At least game developers for Mac have it now. Whatever. iOS 9. God, there's a lot of stuff on this one. I think this is the second to last part of WWDC. So iOS 9, natural language everywhere. Siri, everywhere. I just said Siri and then everywhere, but it was in a lot of places. There was kind of this thing, similar to Google Now on top that we talked about at Google I/O, where basically it can, when you invoke Siri, it looks at what's on your screen, and then you can use natural language to say, okay, I want, like, I don't know, if you're looking at, I don't know, a note or something, you could say, remind me to do this later, and then it would say, okay, I'm so sorry, that probably spiked I'm going to deep link it, and then create a reminder for you. It's basically Google Now on tap. It was great. I'm glad that they're bringing it to iOS also. I guess the example that they used was also the natural language understanding. So the example that they used was when you're playing a playlist, and you plug in your headphones. Oh no, it recognizes like the time of day or something, and you can plug in your headphones and on, and it brings up like your playlist. Because obviously you want to listen to music. Kind of cool. It also automatically can add events to your calendar from the Mail app, which is great. Yeah. I'm not going to complain about that. I don't complain about a lot of this stuff. Like, a lot of this stuff is actually pretty cool. So, next up, Apple Pay. Actually, I guess it used to be called Passbook. They renamed it to Wallet, because now it supports gift cards and loyalty cards too. It's great. I don't think that Google Wallet or Android Pay supports loyalty cards. I don't think that they do. I think that they do gift cards. They don't do loyalty cards. They also brought transit direction to Maps in the Apple Maps application. Bringing transit directions now. I mean, I guess it is a fairly new map, as opposed to Google Map, which is kind of tried and true, tested and true. That's there. They're bringing it to a lot of cities here in the U.S. and like 300 something cities in China, which is great. They also have a news app now, which this is the one thing I'll complain about. We don't need a news app. We don't need it. Just let us download an app. Don't put another bundled app on the iPhone. It's enough. It's kind of like Flipboard. It supports machine learning or natural whatever learning. Cool. Keep spiking the mic. Jeez. So yeah, not too much on that guy. On the news app, it looked cool, looked great, looked like Flipboard. Flipboard's machine learning. Sounds good. Now we've got some of the most applause. Multi-window and slide over. Multi-window, slide over, picture-in-picture on iPads. Super cool. Multi-window, exactly what you think it is. No, you're not dreaming. It's finally happening. Slide over is kind of a cool thing where you can basically slide from the top right and bring down a list of apps. I think it's only system apps, certain system apps like photos, calendar, messages, stuff like that. I don't know if it'll support full third-party apps. I don't believe it will because I feel like scaling and that type of stuff is going to be very difficult to implement. But you can kind of bring these down on like a third of the display on an iPad. I believe only the newer ones, the iPad Mini 2, iPad Mini 3, iPad Air, and iPad Air 2. But anyway, sorry, I'm getting distracted here. It brings down like a third on the third of the display this secondary app. The issue is that you can't interact with both of them at the same time. You can't interact with the main app and this little slide down app at the same time. I think once you touch the other app, it kind of gets... Okay, so you slide down on the third, this app comes into focus, everything else over here gets blurred out. Once you slide down, and then you try to touch the normal part, the main app that you were using before, it goes back to that app and slide over goes away. So I think the important part here is that basically if you want to quickly look at another app, you can use slide over and look at that app. If you want to use multi-window, you need to have an iPad Air 2 because that requires a lot of processing power, and the iPad Air 2 is the only one that can support that. I believe that the normal iPad Air, the original, can do it too. I think that they just want to sell new iPads, which is fine. I mean, it's a good thing to do, a good selling point, so fine, whatever. And I guess when this does come out, you're going to be pretty close to the iOS 9 launch anyway. It will, what am I talking about? It will be the iOS 9 launch. It'll be close to the new iPad launch also. So there's going to be new iPads anyway, so you might as well just pick up the iPad Air 2, which will be one step lower than the newest iPad. So, fine, whatever. Yeah, so multi-window, multi-window, everything is fantastic. Another really cool feature that was actually in the jailbreak tweak on iOS was low power mode. They implemented low power mode, but that's not what was in the jailbreak tweak. They basically turned your keyboard into a trackpad on the iPad, meaning the software keyboard that comes up. So basically what happens is if you put two fingers on the keyboard, it turns it into a huge trackpad, which is great because that way you can kind of like cycle through your text up, down, left, right, and find the correct point rather than stopping typing, like stopping finger typing, touching where you want, bringing up the keyboard and going back to typing. It's kind of a pain. So the fact that you kind of just never leave the home row, just swipe around to where you want to edit and then start editing there, it's great. It really is fantastic. There was a jailbreak tweak where you could just slide across the keyboard with the finger and it would just move. There's a tweak that used to do that. Is now unnecessary because it's built into the system. And in fact, I think it's built in better. So just like I said before, Apple may not necessarily do things first, but when they do them better. What's up? What else do we have here? Turn keyboard into a trackpad. There's a low power mode. They made Swift, which is their new language, Apple language. They made it open source, which got a lot of applause from WWDC because it is the Worldwide Developer Conference. So this thing is for developers. It's great. I think it's important that it was open source. Now they made it open source. Fantastic. There's going to be a developer beta that they came out on Monday, so it'll be a week from when this video gets released, or this podcast gets released. It's going to be a week prior to when this podcast gets released. There's a public beta coming out also, I think on the 30th, June 30th. And everybody's going to get a free upgrade in the fall. Same thing goes for the OS 10 launch, I believe. There's going to be a beta, and then there's going to be a big upgrade free in the fall, which is great. I keep saying which is great, and I don't mean to say, yeah, it's great, but actually it is great. I just have a lot of stuff to get through here, and we're getting close to 45 minutes. Oh, geez, this was a pretty long podcast for just one person. So the Apple Watch OS 2, it's again available in beta. You can now reply to emails. There's new complications in terms of, I think that's a good thing, in terms of all the stuff you can display on a watch face. Developers can make their own complications, I believe, or watch faces. Don't quote me on that. There's new fitness apps, and now developers can finally create native apps. Meaning, before, every single app that you ran on the Apple Watch was actually running on your iPhone. Kind of a pain, because it would slow down the watch, because every time you clicked on an app, it would basically send the data that the app, or that the watch needed to run that app over the phone, which slowed down things a lot. So now you can finally store stuff natively on the watch, which should speed things up quite a bit. So I'm kind of excited to see how much stuff changes because of that. That's the Apple Watch OS 2. Release date, I want to say it's in the fall also. I think fall is going to be a time for everybody to upgrade everything, which is great. I keep saying which is great. And then Tim Cook pulled a Steve Jobs and did we just have one more thing. And they announced Apple Music. Interesting thing here, they refused to say the word stream. They made it a big point that they're not a streaming service, they're an experience and an ecosystem. Meaning we're not just going to stream you random music. We're not a Spotify. We're not a Pandora. We are a personalized ecosystem. So Apple Music supports personalized streams, 24/7 radio, 24/7 radio. This is really important. They're basically going to have a 24/7 radio that goes on all the time. Yeah. Cool. I think that's just like playing music. So, but Apple does it now. So it has to be better. See, I'm gonna give them credit and I'm gonna tear them down at the same time too, because some of the stuff they do is pretty cool and some of it just doesn't make sense at all. Beats won their buyout with Beats. So they bought out Beats and now they're upgrading Beats 1. Pretty quick, nothing too important there. It's also coming to Apple Music is also coming to Android. Interesting. iTunes? Maybe. Just like, I say iTunes because they brought iTunes to Windows, which is a huge thing. Steve Jobs was quoted saying, what was it? It's like giving a glass of water from somebody in hell or to someone in hell, because it was apparently great. They're bringing Apple Music to Android. I'm not sure it's going to catch on, but I think that a lot of people are going to take advantage of it. So they should. I don't really know if it's going to be that fantastic as Apple claims it will be, but it could be pretty cool. It's going to be $9.99 a month, and it's going to be free for the first 3 months. I think that's going to let a lot of people actually be able to fully integrate themselves into the service, because of the fact that they have 3 months to use it. And I think that was a pretty good play by Apple, because now you can basically shake. For those of you watching the video, I just touched my screen and the screen shook. I think that's really smart. Giving people a trial is fantastic because it's able to let them use the software, and then after that decide if they actually need it or want it. And I think the thing about that is that in a way it promotes piracy, because a lot of people want the app. It does not support piracy, but I know a lot of people that do this. And when I say I know a lot of people, I don't mean myself. I don't support this, but I know a lot of people that will buy an app or buy the software, get the software for the trial, run the trial down and be like, wow, that was actually really cool. But I don't want to pay for this because they just don't want to pay for it, and they go out and they find a pirated copy somewhere. Just pay for it. Like you showed yourself that you were satisfied with it. Just pay for it. So that's there. It's $9.99 a month, $10 a month, the cost of an album, free for the first 3 months. 3 months is a long time. People are really just going to forget that it's not a paid service, and they're going to love it, and they're going to get ingrained into it, and then they're going to subscribe to it, which is a really good model. Really good model. I think that a lot more people should do like a 3-month trial. Depending on the software, of course, it doesn't really make much sense to do a 3-month trial and like some small tweak. I mean, that's a week trial, maybe even a few days. But yeah, that's there. So that was the big stories of the past week. There was a lot going on. I don't know. There was a lot of stuff that happened. I really want to go through some of these topics next week. I think at least I want to do Oculus and WWDC, limit them to 10 minutes as usual, and we'll go from there. This has been the TechnoCola Podcast, episode 4, titled episode 5, over a month now, titled An Apple Here, An Apple There. Let us know if you guys have any questions, comments, any feedback at all. We've gotten a few, and I'm really, really trying to incorporate those into this podcast. I think it's really important to keep the quality up. As I say this, I'm recording on a MacBook with really bad lighting. I'm not recording on a MacBook. Sorry, I'm recording on a MacBook Air, using it to record, but I have my external webcam here. I really want to keep the quality up. Anything that I can do to help you guys kind of understand more, or help you guys have more fun watching this or listening in, would really help. At the end, this is for you guys. You know, we're not making money off of this. It's for the enjoyment of doing it and the enjoyment for you guys. So let us know. I'm always I'm always willing to listen to feedback. So yeah, that's about it. This is the TechnoCola Podcast signing off. We'll see you guys next week. Because let's go in here. Yep. See you guys.